Welcome to Vitalmoments podcast. It's Ron Baker here with David Gilmore Baker. And I get the privilege today to do the interview for the podcast of wrapping up March 12th, Practicing the Way and Sabbath.
Shabbat. I love saying Shabbat.
I know you do. You love it. So does your kid.
Yeah.
So yesterday, I think it was like week 7 in that 8-week series.
Is it 8 weeks? It is 8 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 8 weeks, dude. It's 8 weeks. Yeah. We are both back from England. And I'm kind of recovering a little bit from jet lag. I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah. Had a big nap yesterday.
That's just a normal Sunday afternoon, dude.
Sure. That's okay. Let's just call it what it is.
I grew up in your house. That's not jet lag. That's just Ron Baker doing it's just,
I watched golf.
Sunday night.
I watched golf and I was out cold. So, dude, you covered some great stuff yesterday. Man, oh man, it was such a great talk on Sabbath. And you unpacked a lot of things. So what I want you to do is we actually have people that are sending questions, which is pretty sweet. So it's starting to happen. So we got a text message and we also got an email. And so David, give us an overview of Sabbath. Just give us, 2 minutes. I'm going to set the timer. 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Yeah. Sabbath is a practice of Jesus. He would often pull away. People would say it sounds in solitude when he pulled away, but it was also to rest, to actually just find time to disconnect from the regular day and habits of what we do in our regular day, right? So Jesus' public ministry was working, and it was preaching and teaching and guiding people and understanding what the kingdom of heaven was. And he often pulled away to Shabbat, and which is the original language of the day and age that they were talking about, the Shabbat of meaning to Sabbath. And the definition of Sabbath is to stop, to cease, and to be done. And it can be broken down to a phrase of a 24-hour time period in which we stop all work. And I said, yes, all work, and set aside a day to rest, delight, and worship. And this is what God intended for his creation, and to be part of the fabric of his creation was to stop, yes, to work hard, yes, to be full of creativity and rhythm, but to have rest. And so I basically took this message of trying to help us understand that this is actually a theme through the Bible, like a 30,000 foot level theme through the Bible of God wants his creation to have rest, to be a creation that is full of his rest and his peace. And Shabbat was Sabbath was his plan for his people to take on the 7th day of every week, take 24 hours to stop. Stop working, stop plowing the field, stop doing whatever you're doing, and rest in his creation so that he would replenish your soul. So it's like this idea and a practice that says, you know what, I'm going to say no to the rat race or the theology of hustle, do more, just accomplish more, climb the ladder. No, stop one day a week to be in God's presence and to be done with the regular day of work, so that he may restore your soul. And our world has kind of forgotten about that. It's more of run, go. And there's this there's this thing that's been happening in our world where people are being diagnosed with hurry sickness. Burnout is another word, super stressed, exhaustion, where your body actually starts shutting down. We know a few people in our lives that have actually had their bodies shut down, and they feel like they're having a heart attack or something's happening to them, but their body's saying, no, you've gone too hard. And Sabbath is that thing that helps us to resist that theology of running so hard. So,
is there unpack for me, not just for me, but for the listener, and the Watcher.
Yeah.
The internal Pharaoh line that landed
Yeah.
really, really well. Actually, one of our faithful question people from
Mhm.
email,
Yeah.
sent that in about how that
Mhm.
landed very, very well. So
Yeah. So
the
what
internal
happened? Like, yeah,
Pharaoh,
how I got
yeah,
there was, if you don't keep the Sabbath, you will be diagnosed with hurry sickness.
sure,
Like, that's what happens to your life. You will be someone that has burnout, brain fog, stress, bad relationships. It even comes down to maybe a person that has a weak immune system. And ultimately, if you do not keep the Sabbath, you'll actually distance yourself from God because you're running to the world standards of how it wants to push you farther into what it's designed for you. But keeping the Sabbath, which is the opposite of hurry sickness, restores you and reforms you.
yeah,
So it does. Restoring you, it actually sets you free from slavery of what the world wants. So in Deuteronomy, God's saying to his people, like, you will keep the Sabbath, like you will stop working your
yeah,
slaves. Interesting time in the world. Your slaves, your donkeys, your daughters, your male servants, your female servants, everyone in your household, in your life will stop and make the Sabbath day holy and keep it holy, sorry. And it'll be a day in the Lord. And this was happening in their time in their life where they were just coming out of slavery from Pharaoh, and it was an external Pharaoh, a person, a people
mm-hmm,
group, literally making them work 7 days a week, working so hard, grinding so hard. And I wanted to help us understand that
yeah,
that was an external Pharaoh. It's a different time in the world. And now in our day and age, we don't have external pharaohs. We actually have internal pharaohs. And this really hit.
oh yeah,
I didn't think it was actually going to land as hard as I thought it was for people. And I heard a pastor named Dave Lomas say, we may not have external pharaohs in our world right now driving us so hard, but we all have internal pharaohs where it's the
sure,
voice inside of our head saying, perform, kill it, hustle hard. I joked around like, do your thing. Like, this is what we want to do. Our internal
right,
voices, the pharaohs inside of our heads say, you need to perform. You need to keep going, because if you don't, you're worthless. You're lazy. You're a nobody. You're not building a resume of, look what I've done in my life. But keeping the
right,
Sabbath reminds us that we're restored from that. We're
yeah.
actually set free from slavery.
So we become slaves to the internal pharaohs,
Yeah,
that
exactly.
the internal pharaoh that actually is
Mhm.
demanding more of us. That's really good. Now
Yeah.
let's talk about uh let's talk about the question. Let me just double check the question that came in by
Mhm.
text. Um so talk a little bit
Mhm.
about examples of your Sabbath.
Mhm.
You talked a lot about it. You've got little kids. You talked about
Yeah.
it from a perspective of something you guys have been practicing.
Mhm.
Even, Tatum runs
Yeah.
around yelling, you know,
Yeah.
Sabbath and all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
what what does a day look like, and
Mhm.
and coupled with that comes the question from our email
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
what filter do you run things through that you will do,
Mhm. See,
not
here's
do?
the thing. Okay, before I get to the day, I need to hit on how it forms us. Yes, it restores us, and lets us understand that we are set free from the internal pharaohs, but it actually forms us as well. Because how you see the impact of your Sabbath day keeping it actually helps you understand why it forms you into something more beautiful. Because
Okay,
a lot of us are restlessness right now. We are full of just, it's the category that we run in. It's the things that we feel every single day. We are
right,
restless right now,
yeah,
where you're
yeah,
hurry, burnout, noise, chaos, anxiety, and
yeah.
uncontrol. Those are the
Mental
big
health,
things.
yeah,
Mental
yeah,
health.
yeah.
But when you allow Sabbath and keep the Sabbath, it forms you into having margin, having a good pace of life, where you actually see quietness in your life. There's clarity, there's peace. And when you have uncontrol, which is restlessness, you actually turn into restfulness, which is full of trust.
Okay,
And it allows you to see that your identity does not come from what you do, but it's who God says you are, a son and daughter of Him, living with
sure,
rhythm and creativity and wisdom and full of
yeah,
rest. But here's the thing, what happens. So getting to the question of, okay, what does our day look like? For me as a husband, as a father, I'm like, okay, how do I help our household live into that restfulness. And we want to keep the Sabbath. It's a 24-hour time period. I started with 6 hours, moved to 12 hours. And then my wife, Hannah, actually, she's like, I need to do this as well. So we decided right then and there as a family, we'll take 24 hours a week to do this. And we use the words stop, rest, delight, and worship as our filter to our Sabbath day.
Right. So people are wanting to know, fill in the day.
Yeah.
That's what I need you to do. Practical. Get me to the practical.
So,
sorry, I pushed you along because I don't, I think people are longing for the practicality of this, right?
Yeah, but you need to know why it's so practical. So our day is super simple because we've picked our day. We've choose traditions to keep it, to start and finish with. So we look forward to these things where you're choosing activities that actually bring life. So for us, it looks like we're napping, we're reading, we're eating food together with friends and family that actually bring us life. Like
okay, so right there. I love that part, David. The friends part, because sometimes we think Sabbath is, I don't hang out with anybody.
No, it's the opposite.
But you guys it's the opposite. You guys do consistently do that. I love that.
It's people coming over that bring you life and actually pour into you, and you can just laugh and you can celebrate. And it's like for us little kids, 3 years old and 11 months, it's dance parties in the house.
Yeah.
Like it's truly that. Like it's understanding that, okay, we're gonna put our phones away. They're not, we like at the beginning we used to turn them off completely, which was great. But for a time period, we were like, you know what, we're going to keep our phones on so we can have these spontaneous moments of like, you know what, we're going to invite these people over, see if they're available.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like you guys come over, right? We just randomly message people. You want to come over for a Sabbath meal? And we use that language so they know it's a time of celebration. And that's what our day looks like. It's truly that. Like, it's like, you can't, like, if you want to talk to me about work, you can't contact me.
Yeah, and I think that's the important thing. I mean, you did go for a while with the phone, but now you have the phone, but you're very purposeful in making sure that you're not working. Like if I were to come over and I'll say something about work, you just look at me and shrug, right?
It's do.
Like, I'm not working. It ticks me off, actually.
I bet it does. The site that I lead in and I attend at, the people on my team, they know that they can't contact me, and if I'll respond to them on Saturday night after 5:00. People part of the site that I attend now, they know, like they don't even reach out during the day because they know that I'm not. And it's not a thing of just it's not a thing that they're like, oh, like David doesn't work. Like, no, they understand this is the time that it's for me and my family to be with God. And it's setting margin and boundaries, because right now in our world there seems to be no boundaries at all. And we often wonder and ask the questions, okay, why am I feeling so tired? It's because you're not living with margin.
So Dave, when you think about the rest period, the Sabbath period, what you're doing is literally breaking free from the world trying to force you into its mold. And maybe it's a bit of the, I'm going to refuse to be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed. So the rest is literally saying, I'm going to break this mold.
Yeah, and it's helped me realize that things always get done. I have 6 other days of the week to work hard.
Yeah, exactly.
And
what do you do? Let me ask you this question. What do you do when someone contacts you and, let's say, okay, you've got to do a wedding in that window of your Sabbath? Are you like legalistic? You're like, no, I can't do the wedding because I'm
not legalistic like that, because it's very like the ideal situation is it happens every week, but the reality is it doesn't happen every week. Like it might be 3 weeks out of the 4 weeks of the month. But I if I know something's coming up where I can't fully Sabbath, it's only a few hours that I'm out, and the girls know that I'm going to be back. But I have a task. I go do that, and I come back, and we continue to Sabbath together. I don't want it to become legalistic where it's just like, okay, there's no fun at all, and it does become a task. I did that for a while, and it was more damaging to my relationship with Jesus and God and the Holy Spirit. but it's
That's
very
good.
much just holding it with a loose hand, like a loose grip, sorry. And understanding that
Yeah,
there's
more
going to
of
be
like an
sometimes
openness, right?
an
Yeah.
openness, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's going to be where you actually do have to go do something, and that's okay because someone's in need. And like a wedding is a celebration. I
Yeah.
actually see it like
Yeah.
how great is it that you get to go celebrate with someone and put on a day with them and for them to celebrate. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's try not to be so legalistic with it
I
and just understand it's
I think what you helped us understand though is that, I mean, the whole entire series has been about
hmm
be with Jesus, become like Jesus, do what Jesus did.
hmm
And one of the things I said in my site at the end of the service after your talk, which was just so unbelievably good, I said, Sabbath apart from a relationship with Jesus is just a day off.
hmm
And because I think the purpose of it is formation,
yeah.
right? It's the formation of my relationship with Jesus. So I think there's a piece of that where you have to be understanding that I'm doing this because I want to
hmm
deepen my walk with Jesus.
yeah.
And I'm not doing it, just to, break free from the patterns of this world. I'm actually doing it to be formed into the Christ likeness.
Yeah.
And I think that was so evident and so clear. And it was, yeah, there was a couple of moments because I know you've pushed on me so much about this.
hmm
We get to a point in our lives where we're like, I just need a vacation. You said this in the talk. I
hmm
just need a vacation. And then we get home from the vacation. We need a vacation from the vacation.
yeah.
And it's like actual
hmm
Sabbath keeps us from
hmm
um, looking for escape routes, looking for a way
hmm
out, or, it also, I mean, even in seasons, I mean, I think Dave, I believe you started Sabbathing in COVID. I believe that's when you started it or
six
just
months
before.
before COVID, yeah.
Yeah.
6 months before.
And, we're all running around like chickens with our heads cut off trying to make sure this thing survives. And we're exhausted and tired. And you're like, hey guys, I'm like doing great. And we're
hmm
like,
hmm
and we're like, why? And you're like, because I take my Sabbath.
hmm
And,
hmm Walter Brueggemann says the people that Sabbath and take that 24-hour time period live every day of the week differently. People
yeah,
often ask me, like, how do you pour so much into people?
right.
I'm a site leader that literally has about 150, 160 people that say they go to this site, and a lot of them are wanting time to sit around coffee tables.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people ask me, like, how do you do it? It's because I know I have 24 hours at the end of the week
Yeah.
where you can't do anything with me unless it's something that's going to bring me life.
Yeah.
And
So
it's
good.
transformed the way my wife and I and our girls hopefully will continue to live our lives, being able to pour into people. I'm like, I'm so serious about this. I believe that I, as an individual, and other people that practice Sabbath, are able to pour all of their being into people
Yeah.
because they've invested in themselves, not in a selfish way,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but they're investing in their
Yeah.
walk with Jesus, where it actually allows him to fill you out so you can
Okay.
pour yourself
Yeah.
out to
Because
others.
Sabbath is not me time.
No, it's not.
People say, I just need my me time. It's like,
Yeah, no.
every time I hear that, I'm like, what?
hmm
What's me time? It's like,
hmm
I mean, I sometimes think if the Apostle Paul heard believers today go, I just need my me time, he'd
Yeah.
be like, you kidding?
hmm
I gave my life
Yeah.
for the work of the church, and we need me time. Sabbath is
yeah.
time with family, with Jesus,
hmm
with God.
hmm
It's rest.
Yeah.
And I think what made your talk so powerful, honestly, and you and I've been talking about this behind the scenes. It's
hmm
not a phrase that I came up with, but it's a leaned in truth for you.
hmm
You have actually leaned into this, and you're leaning in a way that it was just so evident. I looked
hmm
over at one point. I was sitting in the back of the room in Poplar Hill, and Josh Dozwa, our arts guy here, I leaned over and I went, Psst. I'm like, wow. And he and I were like, yeah, like it was just so
hmm
good. So really,
Cool.
really appreciate your talk on what's happening now. And now I hope people implement it,
hmm
start with a 6, go to 12, go to
Yeah.
24 and see the
hmm
difference. So, all right, good stuff. We better wrap this up. I've got to go write a talk on simplicity
Yeah.
for this coming
Awesome.
weekend, or for what's the date? March 19th, I think it is. I'm
I think
doing this
so.
talk on simplicity. So,
Yeah.
um, it works out good for me because I'm a simple guy, so I can do simplicity. So, all right, I got to run. Someone's here looking for my time. So, thanks, Dave, for this, and thanks for watching or listening to this podcast. And we will See you later. And don't forget, if you're not connected at Vital Point Church, reach out to us through the website. We'd be happy to connect you to those that can get you connected. So thanks, Dave. Peace out.
Awesome. See ya.